Hi guys, follow me on Instagram to never ever miss any of my crazy updates.
Hi guys and welcome to another vlog. I'm riding this. This is Royal Enfield's flagship motorcycle, the Super Meteor 650, and this is actually the base variant known as Astral. The variant above that is Interstellar, which basically gets dual tone colors for rupees 15,000 extra. Quite the premium for dual tone colors, huh? That's something which car makers charge, but motorcycle makers are also doing it now. And the top variant, which happens to be Celestial, gets a windscreen visor up front and touring seats along with a pillion backrest as well. Now, it has a very typical cruiser design language. Firstly, it gets all LED lights, RE badging on the inside. Again, LED indicators, Showa upside down forks, which is crazy for a Royal Enfield motorcycle, and everything is round. The headlight is round, the indicators are round, the cluster is round, even the tires are round. Can you believe it? I'm just kidding. Everything is always round in a cruiser motorcycle, but tires are always round in any type of motorcycle or car. Now these are actually big tires because 119s at the front, 320mm discs. There's a reflector treatment here, USD forks, just amazing. The exhaust exits like this and goes straight there. Obviously this is a parallel twin engine, so you get an exhaust on the other side as well. RE badging here on the foot pegs, very front set, typical cruiser design language of course. Nice tank with the RE badging and sort of glittery finishing on the color. Royal Enfield since 1901 written here on the bar end. Says Super Meteor 650. This is a bit stiff to operate. The pillion foot peg of course, and regular suspension at the rear, that is twin shocks. 300mm disc, really wide tire at the rear, 150/80/16. Okay, you can see the width right here, and the round theme continues. Round brake light, round indicators as well. There's the reflector treatment too. For the pillion to hold on to, he has to obviously catch this one. That's not that great. Comfort is not that great for the rider or the pillion with these seats of course, because here you get a bit of a back pain when you do long rides. Meanwhile, the pillion can hold on to this. Again, you can see the exhaust is finished in chrome, looks nice. This is stuck, it just won't move, or it is locked in, I don't know. That is the Sari guard of course, and Super Meteor 650 written right there. Overall fit and finishing is amazing. This is the crash guard which says Royal Enfield, but it's not going to protect anything because the pegs are going to touch first because they are wider. So obviously people will change this for sure. Wires are exposed, which is fine because they are neatly concealed and they won't just interfere here or there. Says Royal Enfield here on the handlebar as well. Nice and wide handlebar, not white, wide handlebar. Chrome mirrors, adjustable levers. Yeah, both the levers are actually adjustable on this motorcycle, which is quite nice. This cluster is very similar to what we have seen on other Royal Enfield motorcycles, so it kind of feels cheap in this expensive motorcycle. And what else feels cheap is this panel gap here. Yeah, they could have done a better job of finishing right there. It says Royal Enfield here, and we are straight away going to turn on the motorcycle. It's actually turned on, so I'm just going to shut it. I'm going to shut the hazard light. So this is for the hazard light button. This is the engine start and kill switch button. Those are the only buttons here. Here obviously it is for the headlight control. This is for the indicator and this is for the horn, which will not work right now because I obviously turned off the motorcycle. It says Showa right here. Let's turn on the motorcycle. It does a full swipe up thingy. This is the Tripper navigation built with Google, whatever version. It shows the clock when it's not connected. Here you get an analog speedometer and a digital display which shows you a lot of things. Telltale lights right here. So it tells you the gear position indicator, it tells you if you're riding eco, it gives you the time as well. So time is different in two zones, and it also gives you an odometer. There's a button right here. You press this to browse through twin trip meters as well. Let's turn on the motorcycle. Look at this, okay? That is so freaking smooth. Very smooth. Let's rev it. The sound of a twin cylinder engine is obviously phenomenal. Let's start riding right away.
First and foremost, I need to obviously turn it on. From there it rose to life. It's on the main stand and there is some effort putting it on the main stand. It's not that easy. We straight away get into first gear. Oh my god, it's very front side, the pegs. Naturally they have to be. Let's give an indicator for a U-turn. Brakes are decent, not very sharp. Clutch is actually heavy and there's some effort taking a U-turn because of the weight of this motorcycle, 241 kgs. So yeah, typical cruiser design and typical cruiser characteristic as well. But gearing seems quite tall here. Is it? Well, let's do one thing. Let's find that out by actually launching it. Not now, ahead. So around the corners it feels decently stable. Oh my god, the engine doesn't have a flat spot. It's quite linear and it has grunt throughout. There is just good amount of performance on offer all throughout, which is amazing. And the gearbox is decent. Only thing is the clutch, I feel, is a bit on the heavier side. Engine does sound nice. This is the same 648cc parallel twin engine which does duty in a lot of other Royal Enfield motorcycles like the Interceptor 650 and the Continental GT 650. Is it raining all of a sudden? What? When did this happen? Crazy. It's sunny and it's raining. How is that even possible? So it does inspire good amount of confidence because of its weight and because of the nice suspension up front. Yeah, obviously USD folks really offer great handling characteristics, and this is that is not different. That's not any different here in this motorcycle. So feels really nice and stable around the corners. Tires offer decent grip as well. Only thing is the ride isn't great. Okay, it feels a bit on the stiffer side. At the front we've got 120 mm of suspension travel, which is good. At the rear it is less at 101 mm. I just don't find it adequate enough. We need more suspension travel for sure at the rear, and that's the reason why it kind of hurts your back when you go over a bump at speed. So overall ride quality is good, but definitely could be better. But I think they've got a good balance of ride and handling on this motorcycle. The handlebar is wide. Well, not wide. Why I keep saying white? It's wide, and it gives you ease of actually maneuvering this motorcycle. Yeah, it's obviously not going to be a super handling machine. It's not supposed to be, but it is reasonably well assuring of, you know, corner riding around the corners of the guard section. But this is all about touring, and that's the reason they also have this option of a, what do we call it, windscreen. Plus they have a slew of crazy number of accessories as well, because obviously this is a motorcycle which is meant to go the long haul, and then you can get panniers and whatnot. So sky's the limit in terms of accessories. Brakes are decent. I wouldn't say it's very sharp, but they're fine. But for a bike of this kind, I think the brakes are decent enough. They get the job done. Obviously you use more of the rear brakes and they work well. Time to launch and off we go. First gear 65, second gear almost 100. Crazy tall gearing, huh? And third gear it does 120, so it starts to become shorter once you cross second gear. So 1, 2 are very long geared on this motorcycle. Okay, you can feel a little bit of buzzing and a little bit of vibrations as well once you hit the top end of the rev range. I think it redlines around 7,500 RPM, because peak power of 47 horsepower is made at 7250 RPM. So it's decently high revving for a cruiser motorcycle, but I can feel the vibration on the handlebar, on the foot pegs, and also on the tank when I'm locking my knee. Yeah, you can feel the suspension is not very compliant over bumps like this at higher speeds. So at low speeds it's fine, but at higher speeds, yeah, you do feel that. So yeah, ride quality could have been better. This bike is producing, I think, somewhere around 47 horsepower of course, and 53 newton meters of torque, somewhere around that. I forgot, I'm sorry. So that means that torque output is actually coming at a very high RPM, relatively speaking, because it's 5250 RPM, but still low end is fantastic. Obviously it gets dual channel ABS. I can feel a bit of the heat while standing like this, but anyways, off we go. The key is to shift in the mid-range itself, because the mid-range is very nice. So low end is okay, mid-range is fantastic, top end is also decently good, which came as a surprise to me for a bike of this kind. And there's so much wind blast post 100 kilometers per hour. There's just crazy wind blast. Brakes are nice and strong. So the ideal way is no longer to cruise at 60 kilometers per hour, because 60 kilometers per hour cruising is usually the name of the game when it comes to Royal Enfield motorcycles. But things have changed dramatically now. Now at this speed you feel you're riding very slow, because Royal Enfield has taken the bar so high up right now. The bike just feels capable of way more speeds. That's the reason you just downshift and second and off we go. I know you guys know what I just did there, but anyways. Lot of wind blast with the windscreen. There's a lot of buffeting because the height of the windscreen isn't that much also. So still your half head is above the windscreen, which cannot protect the wind blast there. So you have to decide, you want wind blast or you want buffeting. I would prefer wind blast, honestly, because I can go like this, but I can do that with the windscreen visor as well. And we are off. Yeah, you like the bike? I also do. Sound is not that loud like older Royal Enfield motorcycle, but I like the sound. It's smooth, it's nice, it's punchy, it's bassy, it's all that and more. But the vibes, I can feel them. The speedometer needle does climb quite fast, because this is a 648 point something, whatever, 648cc parallel twin engine, which is air and oil cooled, because of which obviously some amount of heating definitely happens around long sweepers. My goodness, it does go with a lot of confidence. beautiful front end feel. I wish the rear end also felt better. Okay, I'm being too rear biased now, but this 6-speed box is a joy to shift. I didn't expect it to be so nice, and over such rumblers you can feel quite a bit here. Okay, that wasn't that bad. Expected it to be worse, but it was fine. Why am I getting all the red signals today? I don't know what is wrong with you, signal. Off we go. So the ground clearance is 135 mm, which I feel isn't adequate, but somehow I had no issues over the worst of speed breakers. This J platform is quite nice indeed. Now, two very important questions. How does this bike feel when you're riding it in higher gear? So here we are into 6th gear at 80 kilometers per hour. Engine feels at ease, okay, and then you get onto the throttle. It doesn't pull immediately like it does in lower gears, obviously, but it pulls decently well, so you can actually cruise comfortably at 100 kilometers per hour and 120 kilometers per hour as long as you're like sleeping like this, because there's a lot of wind blast. So get a windscreen which is really very tall, and then you can really enjoy riding this motorcycle over longer distances. Now this tank is 15.7 liters. Realistically speaking, you will get a fuel efficiency around 20-25 kilometers per liter, which isn't bad for a bike with this much power, performance, and an engine size. Of course, I don't have much to complain about this motorcycle. I'm surprised how well Royal Enfield is making motorcycles. I mean, they've improved dramatically well. The price is obviously quite high, honestly, but then at this price there's nothing which even comes close. It's 50,000-70,000 more expensive than the Interceptor 650 as well as the Continental GT 650, around 50,000 more than the Continental GT 650, and for this price you do get a lot of bang for your buck. A nice well-rounded motorcycle which offers good amount of performance. It's comfortable to ride, can go the distance as well. This price range starts at rupees 4.27 lakhs, goes all goes all the way to 4.62 lakhs, and obviously depending on the variant. All the prices are on road Mumbai, so if you're looking to buy a cruiser motorcycle, this is definitely the one to consider. The only thing I'm going to tell you is wait for some time, let the initial batch issues be sorted out, and then go for it, because the Super Meteor 650 definitely stays true to its name of being super, but a super cruiser. Very nice bike to ride, very much fun. Even though the seat height is like 740 mm, someone as tall as me doesn't face any issues, so short riders will definitely love it for sure. If you like this vlog, make sure to give it a thumbs up. That's a like button, and I will do the next best thing, which is just stand at a red signal, because that's all I've done today. I can't believe how many red signals I encountered. I don't know why and how, what happened today. But the good thing is I get to see a new BMW X7. That is the facelifted model. It looks kind of weird, but hopefully that will grow on us. I'm just hoping about that. Oh, it gets into neutral without any fuss. Let's give an indicator. Let's take a U-turn. Cornering clearance could be better. You try to corner aggressively. Now it's going to scrape the pegs for sure. Upsido.